What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nash here, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another episode of WWE's Biggest Issue. This week's episode is actually a little different, because this week's episode is actually a review on the Raw after WrestleMania from last week. So if you guys remember last week's episode, I talked about, I pretty much talked about exactly what we should expect from last week's episode of Raw, which was obviously the Raw after WrestleMania, and it appears that there were a few things that I was right about, but there was a few that I was not right about. So let's actually get right into it. So obviously we know the night started off with Bobby Lashley, the WWE champion, showing up to the brand new WWE Thunderdome inside the campus of the University of South Florida, and he was confronted by Riddle, who had just lost his title, his United States Championship, against Sheamus, and Riddle just basically scolded Lashley, saying that he wasn't gonna, that he wasn't a fighting champion and all that. And so Lashley was like, you know what? Fine, I'll fight you. So the action started with that. Bobby Lashley versus Riddle. As soon as Riddle went down towards the ramp on his little scooter, I guess, Bobby Lashley just completely attacked him and threw him into the ring. The ring post, the steps, the barricade, everything. Literally everything, damn near everything but the kitchen sink. And I don't know why, but when the referee asked Riddle if he wanted to go, he was like, yeah, let's go. The bell rang, and it was done. It was done. It was all Lashley, and Lashley had grabbed Riddle into the Hurt Lock and made him tap out. One of the big things that I realized from watching Riddle over the last few months is that the fans, as crazy as it sounds, the fans enjoy watching Riddle get his ass beat. Literally, which we get that damn near every single week. We knew how one-sided this match was going to be, and there was really nothing special about it. It really wasn't. It was just a way to make Bobby Lashley look even more stronger than he was when he had retained the title at WrestleMania. At this point, we don't even know we don't know if honestly, we don't even know if Riddle will ever get, another title shot at all. We don't even know. But yeah. So after that. Hang on, guys. Okay. Hang on. Alright, never mind. So, next up we have... So, the next match on the card, we had the Viking... On that card, we had the Viking Raiders against... Yes, you heard me right. The Viking Raiders. Ivar had returned for the first time in, 8 months? I believe it was 8 months. And this was a very interesting matchup because on their return back, they went up against Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, and this was pretty similar to sort of similar to the previous match. But this one was interesting because Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, they've gelled so well together. Excuse me. Since not only joining the Hurt Business, but also since becoming Raw Tag Team Champions late last year. But also since leaving the Hurt Business, they've gelled so well together. But in the end, obviously, um, the Ivar had hit the Viking Experience, I believe, on Shelton Benjamin for the win. One thing that I want to point out is that ever since Ivar got injured, had his clavicle injury, Eric has done nothing on Raw, main event, nothing. The last time we saw him prior to this night was actually WrestleMania SmackDown, where we had the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, which actually featured guys like Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, Jey Uso, who ended up winning the match, Shinsuke, Corbin, and even also Eric of the Viking Raiders. We knew that both Alexander and Benjamin, were gonna have a lot of we knew that they were gonna have a lot of offense going into this match, but after that it was all Viking Raiders. As far as what we can see from them, the possibilities are endless. But as far as the match between Riddle and Lashley, I gotta give this one only 2.5 stars, because we knew that Riddle was gonna lose anyway. So why even bother? Why even bother booking that match, honestly? But as far as this tag match, hands down, definitely 3 stars. I gotta give this one 3 stars. Getting to see Ivar come back, and how incredible the Viking Raiders were in this matchup. They did incredible. They did absolutely incredible. Next up, actually, we have the next match that was on the card was a rematch from WrestleMania. Asuka challenging Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's Championship. So prior to this, Charlotte Flair had made her return to WWE since having to deal with, obviously, the pandemic. And it's interesting because Charlotte Flair basically talked about how the fans had were being so naive and thinking that she steals opportunities. She said, she said, I don't steal opportunities, I am the opportunity. And then she just left, literally just wishing both Asuka and Ripley luck, good luck in the match. And it was a pretty back and forth matchup. It was back and forth, non-stop action. But as soon as both women were struggling to get back up on their feet, Charlotte came out and attacked both of them with bare feet, because obviously you guys know when it comes to the female talent in WWE, when they're out cutting a promo or whatever, I seen it happen a lot. They wear high heels. Bianca wears them. Sasha, Charlotte, some of them do wear high heels. So she ended up going barefoot, attacking both Asuka and Rhea Ripley into shoving them both into the steel steps and basically kicking them, pinning them, if you will, between between her feet and obviously the LED boards that go on go on the apron, if you will. Honestly, this match I don't know. This is kind of an issue. I gotta give this one 3 stars because one of the key things that you have to notice is this: the promo that Charlotte Flair cut on Raw last week was a prime example of why she should not be a babyface. She was always made to be a heel, and just like her father Rick, her father Rick was always a heel throughout his days in WCW. I think the NWA, and even as part of WWE when he won the WWE Championship in '92. And then coming back, as part of the faction known as Evolution. That promo that she cut, she did that perfectly. I've never seen Charlotte Flair pull a promo that fucking perfect in my personal opinion. And given the fact that Charlotte Flair has beaten both Asuka and Rhea Ripley, let's not forget Charlotte Flair beat Rhea Ripley at last year's WrestleMania. I believe it was night 2, wasn't it? I think it was night 2. Yeah, night 2. On night 2 to kick off WrestleMania night 2, and she made Rhea Ripley tap out to the figure 8 to win her second NXT Women's title. But let's also not forget WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans back in 2018. She made Asuka tap out to the figure 8 to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. So given the fact that these 3 women have been in the ring together, there's no doubt in my mind that we're definitely going to see a triple threat match going into WrestleMania Backlash. So this one, I gotta give this one 3 stars in my personal opinion. Next up, we have a 2-on-1 handicap match between The Miz and John Morrison against Damian Priest. Miz and Morrison had hosted an episode of Miz TV with The Miz's wife Maurice as their guest, and they were talking about the new season of Miz and Mrs. Maurice's I guess her, what was it, her lotion or something like that, something that I honestly don't remember. I don't remember what it was. And Damien and that segment ended with Damian Priest coming out and challenging one of them to a one-on-one match, but then Miz and Morrison were arguing about who should face Damian Priest, but Maurice was like, hold up, you can fight him together. Damian Priest was okay with that, but typical Miz and Maurice using the distraction game to distract Damian Priest. Miz was able to roll Damian Priest up to pin him, and he had some help from the ring ropes, and he literally had to do it in his underwear. His pants were torn off, his shirt was taken off, literally in his underwear and shoes. That's it. That is it. This one, I gotta give it 3 stars because of a few things that I noticed. Obviously, the Miz TV segment was obviously an extended promo for his, for the reality show Miz and Mrs., which it wasn't even going to be funny. We knew, obviously we know that Miz and Mrs. is funny. It's a funny show, but the big question is it really funny? I've seen clips of it on YouTube. I really don't see anything funny about it in my personal opinion. That segment was mediocre at best in my personal opinion. But another thing as well was that this was actually Damian Priest's first loss. I believe this was his first loss since debuting on the main roster in, I think it was back in February or something like that. I think back in February, right around the time that Bad Bunny, had joined, had been a part of Raw for a while. Yeah, so this was his very first loss ever, and if you guys noticed, throughout the whole night, Miz was actually getting tired of John Morrison, so it seems as if we may see a breakup between the two, which I've been talking about that for a long time. I've been saying it for months and months that, that Miz should ditch Morrison, because Morrison because Morrison does not care about, in my personal opinion, I feel like John Morrison is trying to steal Miz's spotlight, which, honestly, I don't blame him, but at the same time, if you think about it, Morrison has never won a world championship in WWE. Yes, The Miz will say that Morrison is a former ECW champion, but that's ECW. ECW had no affiliations with WWE until ECW came back into the fold in 2006. So in a way, ECW was owned by ECW. And since the ECW championship was a part of ECW, Morrison is not a former world champion. He's a former ECW champion, but that's just it. It doesn't count as a WWE heavyweight championship. So I feel like as if Morrison is trying to steal the Miz spotlight just so he can go after the WWE championship, a title that has eluded his career for such a long time. So I could definitely see those two breaking up. But next up, we have Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax against Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. A sort of like a rematch from I think what, Survivor Series, somewhere there. But there was a backstage altercation between Nia Jax and of course Mandy Rose, talking about about Mandy's slip up. If you guys saw that, because of the weather delays, Mandy Rose had slipped and fell tailbone first on the ramp, and it was slippery as hell, literally. And Mandy Rose was like, you know what? I've come to learn to laugh about it and move on. Blah 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 blah. And not only did she slap Nia Jax, but Dana Brooke came in and attacked and both women attacked Nia Jax, which led to this match taking place. It was a pretty back and forth matchup. Baszler and Jax took control of the whole matchup, took control of Dana Brooke, and kept her completely isolated away from Rose, preventing her from making a tag. But she ended up making a blind tag to Mandy Rose, hit a missile drop kick off of to take Shayna Baszler off her feet. And as the closing moments of the match, Nia Jax was getting onto the apron. She slipped off the apron, trying to get back into the ring, and Rose started laughing. And of course, too, it ended up being a count out because Rose and Brooke were like, nah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Live to fight another day. They ended up getting counted out. Honestly, I will admit that was kind of funny, but given the fact that we knew that Jax and Baszler were gonna win that match, I gotta give this one 2 stars, just because of the fact that we knew that we all knew at some point during that match, Mandy Rose's slip would be referenced during the match, and it wasn't clever with Nia Jax, because Nia Jax, if you guys have heard about her story, She was always bullied in school, bullied for a lot of things, myself included. You guys know, I've mentioned this before on the channel. I've been bullied a lot, and I've come to realize, especially nowadays, I've come to realize that, the only reason why that they bullied me was because they were bullied themselves. That was what I've come to realize. But if for some reason Rose and Brooke get a title shot, this will prove that the women's tag team division was for nothing. It was literally for nothing. Because let's not forget, Sasha Banks and Bayley, when they were both baby faces, they wanted women's tag team titles. That's what they wanted. They've been wanting it for so long. Now that we have it, if Rose and Brooke get a title shot, then you might as well just end the tag team division, retire the titles, and just let it go. Because that right there, because it'll prove that the writers are have just given up on the women's tag team division. That's why I only gave it 2 stars. And then of course we have the New Day versus Elias and Jackson Riker. So one of the things that I noticed during the whole show was that only 2 champions had showed up to Raw. The WWE champion and the Raw Women's champion. The United States champion, and also the women's tag team champions as well. So 3 champions, two of them never showed up. The Raw tag team champions and the United States champion. We also had not seen R-Truth as well, because you forget R-Truth is also the 24/7 champion. So because of this, the New Day ended up in a squash. Some people call it a squash match, but I really don't see it that way. I just see it as I guess to quote Tyler Breeze on in Battle of the Brands that he does with Xavier Woods, a prove yourself match, if you will. Big shout outs to them. Big shout outs to both Woods and Breeze. So it was the New Day, both Kofi and Woods against Elias and Jackson Riker. Elias and Riker were attempting to sing a song before the matchup, talking about Shane's match with Braun Strowman, which that was brutal. But of course, the New Day interrupted, and Kingston and Woods had mocked them for getting destroyed by Braun Strowman, and and Elias gave it right back to them when they talked about Omos taking the Raw tag titles off of the New Day. So the match starts. It was honestly, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a pretty back and forth matchup, but the match ended with the former WWE champion taking out Elias and Jackson Riker with a flurry of kicks, and then of course the New Day picking up a victory with apparently Tom Phillips called it the Daybreak. Apparently it was known as Daybreak, but apparently it's being called Up Up Down Down, because that's the name of the YouTube channel that Xavier Woods has. So big shouts to them. Big shouts to that channel. But I gotta give this one 2.5 stars for a couple reasons. Number one, again, we didn't see AJ Styles or Omos come back to Raw since winning the titles from the New Day at WrestleMania. So that proves that Styles and Omos don't care about the Raw tag team titles. They only won the titles because that was the only championship that AJ Styles had never won in WWE. So you know that they're gonna drop the titles at some point within the next couple months. Another thing as well is that don't get me wrong, Jackson Riker and Elias, they are a team, but they will never be as good as the New Day. And plus, this was one of those matches that you see from time to time that makes no sense at all. This was probably by far one of the worst matches I had ever seen. When it comes to tag team wrestling, this was the worst ever because the New Day is better than this. To be honest, why would they sell themselves short to go up against a team like Riker and Elias when they can go up against former Raw Tag Team Champions in the Viking Raiders, or even also in Benjamin and Alexander? Plain simple. And then the last match of the card actually was kind of an interesting one. So we have a triple threat match between Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, and Braun Strowman. So to kick off the show, this episode of Raw anyway, or I guess rather in the middle of the show, MVP came out talking about Bobby Lashley's victory over Riddle and also over McIntyre. McIntyre comes in and says, "You know what? I'm sick of this. I'm getting my rematch." Braun Strowman came out and told McIntyre, "Hey, get into the back of the line." Orton was like, and then Randy Orton comes out and was like, "I'm done with the Fiend. I beat him at WrestleMania. I'm getting back into the title picture." Then WWE official Anna Pierce comes in and he's like, "Okay, you know what? We'll make this a triple threat. Winner will face Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania Backlash for the WWE Championship." This was a very good triple threat match. I had never seen a triple threat match look this good because both Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre worked so well together, taking out Braun Strowman. They literally beat the hell out of each other, and it was one of those matches where you think it's gonna be, bad, but in reality, it was actually a really good match because all three of these men had gotten each other over. And the closing moments of the match, Randy Orton hit Braun Strowman with an RKO. As he was covering Strowman, Drew McIntyre came in, hit Randy Orton with a Claymore to pick up the victory, and now we're getting Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley for the title at Backlash. Ironically enough, last year's Backlash saw Bobby Lashley challenging Drew McIntyre for the title. This year, the tables have turned. Now it's McIntyre challenging Bobby Lashley. So the big question is will lightning strike twice and McIntyre beats Bobby Lashley? Or is Bobby Lashley going to retain the title against Drew McIntyre? One thing that we also have to remember is that last year's Backlash, it was Lana. If you guys remember, Bobby Lashley was in a marriage storyline with Lana. They were married. Lana had costed Lashley the WWE Championship last year at Backlash. The next night on Raw, Lashley tells Lana, "I want a divorce." That's it. That was it. And this year, Lana is not involved. There's no Lana. Nothing stopping Lashley from retaining the championship against Drew McIntyre. But one thing that I do want to point out is that when the match ended, MVP came out. He was on stage to distract McIntyre, only for Mace and T-Bar to come in and attack him from behind. So now the big question is this. Are Mace and T-Bar joining the Hurt Business? That is the big question. Let's not forget, Benjamin and Alexander, they're still technically a part of the Hurt Business. They've just been relieved of their duties as corporate, if corporate, if you will. So the big question is, now the thing is, if Mason T-Bar are indeed a part of the Hurt Business, then this will mean that those who are fans of Alexander and Benjamin, myself included, they're going to be pissed off. They're going to be pissed off. And with Mason T-Bar joining the Hurt Business, this will give MVP another chance for the Hurt, to give championship gold bring championship gold back into the Hurt Business. Let's also not forget, Sheamus is the United States champion. If MVP were to recover from his injuries, he can go up against Sheamus, beat him, take the title off of him, then have a fatal 4-way. Mason T-Bar, Styles and Omos, the Viking Raiders, and say the New Day, or make it a turmoil match, get Elias and Jackson Riker involved. We get turmoil or a fatal 4-way for the Raw Tag titles. Mason T-Bar win the titles. Boom. The Hurt Business has all of the men's gold on Raw. That's just how I see it. Overall, I think, honestly, it was okay. This last week's episode of Raw was fairly decent, but overall, I gotta give this one 3 stars just because I wasn't buying it. I really wasn't buying it, honestly. But the card was pretty stacked. Getting to see Rhea Ripley on Raw, getting to see Charlotte Flair return, getting to see Ivar return was pretty cool, but it didn't really stand out that much. So as far as what we can expect from WrestleMania Backlash in terms of the card, I would say that fatal 5-way, or perhaps the tag team turmoil for the Raw tag titles, Riddle potentially challenging Sheamus for the United States Championship, and then maybe I don't know. I guess maybe the triple threat match for the Raw Women's title, and then maybe perhaps I think maybe that. I think maybe have a whole all the titles on Raw be defended, because it's very rare when it comes to a pay-per-view like Backlash. It's very rare that all of the Raw championships get defended. Usually you would see that at events like SummerSlam and WrestleMania, and even also Clash of Champions. But this one, I think all the titles need to be defended. That way we'll get that way we'll have a continuation of WrestleMania. Thus the namesake WrestleMania Backlash. But guys, that is going to do it for this episode of WWE's Biggest Issue. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button if you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more episodes of WWE's Biggest Issue, which gets posted every Monday. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any new content that comes your way. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. All the links will be down in the description below. If you guys have any fan mail that you want to send me and want me to open up on the channel, my address will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.